Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Careful List, the podcast. We're so glad you could join us. Today, we are talking with Lisa Tschudi, who is a caregiver and host of the podcast, Love Doesn't Pay the Bills. Thank you so much for joining us, Lisa.
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, let's dive straight into this. What is your caregiving story? How did you get on this road?
So I have two daughters, and the second, and they're young adults now.
Mm.
The second daughter was born with cerebral palsy, intellectual disability, and epilepsy. And so we didn't know that right away. It was gradual in the first year of her life that we realized she wasn't meeting milestones, and we eventually finally got the MRI that did show a little difference in her brain.
Mhm.
She has what's called ataxic cerebral palsy. So she's got good strength and muscle tone for the most part, but she is very challenged with her balance and movement planning, motor planning. And so that affects everything. It affects her speech. It affects her ability to get around. She uses a wheelchair. She um, can walk with assistance, and it's
Mhm.
a thing where we're spotting her, like for a gymnast or something. You don't
Yeah,
know when she's going to throw herself off balance.
yeah.
Um, so that's her. She's a delight. She is really super charismatic. She seriously she has been on in a she's been a professional actress in a stage play that with a company that is uh, nationally renowned, if not world renowned. And two of the actors in that show have actually appeared on Broadway since, like that caliber
Oh,
of show.
that's
Like she
amazing. Wow.
and she everywhere we go, people definitely throw her a smile, and a lot of times want to interact with her and start conversations and love to give her little toys or treats. And
She
she's
just has that energy, right?
yeah, yeah. So, and even still as an adult, it made more sense when she was a cute little kid, and now she's
Yeah,
still that way as an adult. Yeah.
that's
So we have
amazing.
yeah, and there's all that great stuff that I tend to lean towards the whining and complaining, and I don't think it's a problem to. Like as caregivers,
Mhm.
I think we should be free to share our experience as we actually experience it, and
Yeah,
along with the fun and great things and the fact that like there are a lot of moments where I just look at her and just go, wow, how amazing that this person exists on the world, and I get
yeah,
to be her mom and spend so much time with her, and she'll do and say cute or funny things that make the day, and uh,
mhm,
give lots of really great hugs and ask us to come sit and cuddle with her, and all that sort of stuff. So there's all
yes.
that, and we, especially financially, have really been challenged with the high level of support needs that she needs on an ongoing
Yeah.
basis for her entire life. It's a high acuity situation, not from really a medical standpoint and not really a behavioral either, but just
Mhm.
those activities of daily living. In fact, she can't do a lot of things for herself. She does need help to get most things done. Uh,
Yeah.
Activities of daily living and instrumental activities of daily living when you're talking about calling to schedule the doctor when it's appropriate and all of those kinds of things, making
Mhm.
plans with a friend or making uh, looking at a schedule or anything like that. She needs assistance for all of it.
Mhm.
So it's from the time she wakes up till the time she goes to sleep, somebody has to be with her.
Yeah.
And that's still the case as now that she's an adult. And I
Mhm.
spent 18 years unpaid doing all of that while my husband was earning income.
Mhm.
And it led us to situations that were really scary and really I wouldn't want anybody else to go through. We
Yeah.
had my husband experienced a layoff at least, well, 3 times, and none of them his fault, just things that happened with the businesses he was working for. And
Yeah.
the second one, we were pretty significantly in debt, and
Mm,
because I had not been earning income, the amount he was earning was not really sufficient for 4 people,
mm,
and we had now no income for the four of us.
yeah.
And that especially, I don't want anybody else to go through that.
Yeah.
I really think that when you have a high acuity caregiving situation, it's not appropriate to leave this as a personal family thing. It
Hmm.
really needs to have a lot more support around us,
Yes.
and ways to either guarantee that somebody else is regularly, consistently in there enough that we could go earn income, and or
Hmm.
ideally it should be a choice for each family to make, pay for the family member who is a caregiver. So
Yeah.
I'm all about, that's the word I want to see. And um,
Yeah. Well,
we
you've
basically,
certainly
yeah.
earned your right to have a very strong opinion about it.
Yeah, yeah. My family have settled into, a workable, more comfortable situation right now. We're lucky to have 3 family members who can care for the one that requires extensive care.
Mhm.
And so that's my husband, myself, and my older daughter,
Mhm.
the sibling. And all 3 of us have access to pay through home and community-based services through Medicaid.
Mhm. Okay.
And we do also occasionally hire outside people to come and give us all a break, including Ori. B, give
Hmm.
Ori a chance to give my daughter a
Hmm.
chance to. So we have outside caregivers to also give my daughter a chance to experience time with somebody else,
Hmm.
opportunity to uh, just have somebody else's ideas of activities to do,
Yeah.
and places to go, and how to do things. And sometimes they come up with, for example, little adaptations to help my
Mhm.
daughter do things that we hadn't thought of,
Yeah.
using a different type of utensil, or sticky mat under the plate we tried at one point for a while, or that one didn't take, but um, I always find it really helpful and great to have various just viewpoints on her
Yes.
needs, and other things to try.
Yeah.
Different, yeah.
Well, so I know there are so many challenges associated with the activities of daily living. Are there certain, I don't know if I want to say products, but are there certain things that you've found that work really well or that you found are really helpful? So if other people are in a similar situation, or a place to go to find more information on, where you order or where you get the things that you use.
So I would say if there's a way to get or do anything that is not specifically sold as medical equipment,
Hmm.
use it. It's probably at least as good and cheaper.
Okay.
Um, for example, if you have wheels on a wheelchair that have the kind of tire that can pop, you get flat
Hmm.
tires, a regular bike store can probably get you the inner tube, like a bike store.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and it's probably a lot quicker than going through your dermal medical equipment, and in that case, not very expensive.
Yeah.
Um, we had there was a time where we needed a tray to put in front of her wheelchair that the
Hmm.
OTs especially really wanted her to use to be able to to just put it down in front of her and have her fine motor activities right there.
Mhm.
And the durable medical equipment company did not make something for that wheelchair. We actually went
Mm.
down to Ace Hardware, the helpful man at Ace Hardware built us a little frame out of PVC pipes that worked great.
Oh,
So
amazing.
anytime that you can think of a way to do something simple, not build as durable medical equipment, go for it.
Yeah.
Try it out.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah.
There's some things, for example, a gate belt, I would buy made for a gate belt because it has to be strong enough to stay closed and support the person. For
Yeah.
example, there are some things like that that I would be very careful about. But um, yeah, we've bought swings that were just, regular swings and some hardware to hang it in the wall, things like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
In
really,
the
really
ceiling.
helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so when we're talking about the different tools and things that can make things easier, um, one of the big challenges, of course, is meal planning and food and all of that. Um, if there isn't a go-to recipe or food that you go for, is there a tool in the kitchen or a utensil or something that she uses that is really helpful?
Hmm.
Or maybe there's something of each?
I have a lot of things to say about this, actually. Okay, so
Excellent. Please do.
yeah, so where to start? First of all, we actually, one of the things that made caregiving very intensive and like high acuity for my daughter when she was young is that she did have ketogenic diet prescribed by her neurologist to treat epilepsy, and it was successful. It is a very, very time intensive diet to manage. It
Yeah.
means shopping for and planning with a calculator and measuring out every meal, every ingredient in that meal to the nearest gram.
Mhm.
And it is not something the rest of the family is going to eat at the same time. It's not, it wouldn't be healthy. It has its own potential side effects. It needs to be managed by a medical team to be
Mhm.
safe. There were blood tests we were doing on a regular basis and lots of supplements that went along with it, particularly carnitine that our dietitian had us using.
Mhm.
And so it really would need to be managed by a medical team. You don't do it just to do it. So
Yeah.
a true ketogenic diet anyway. So out of that, I developed an attitude that is very much about food being as simple as possible. As like simple. I don't go in for a lot of um gourmet. I love to eat it. I love to go out to a nice restaurant and be served, of course, like something really fancy, some sauce that took 5 hours to get just right and all of that.
Right. Yeah.
I love it. But in my life, day to day, for the most part, a lot of our meals are we call it a charcuterie board. It's not probably properly. Some cut up fruits and
Yeah.
vegetables, some slices of cheese. Maybe we have salami in the house or some
Mhm.
nuts, and maybe some crackers or chips, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's a workable meal.
Grab and go.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that kind of thing. And we do use a lot of I don't shy away or suggest that anyone would need to shy away from buying ready-made freezer
Mhm.
meals. There are some reasonable ones right now that in that resemble real food that just happens to have been frozen.
Yeah.
You can get sag paneer. You can get uh, um, some enchiladas. You can get you can get a spinach lasagna. You can get
Mhm.
various things that are maybe similar to what you would cook yourself,
Yeah.
and tasty. And I wouldn't shy away from using those. And if you can, possibly putting it in your budget to use a lot of them.
Right.
And yeah, um, the other thing, so I love, as far as a particular kitchen tool, when we are preparing our own food, I love the Vitamix blender. It
Oh,
is
okay.
not cheap. It is not cheap. It's super durable. It's
Mhm.
super effective. And for me, it blends to the texture you want in a
Yeah.
smoothie, much better than any other blender we've had before. It really
Oh, that's
gets
good to
the
know.
job done, a lot nicer for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Are smoothies a key part of her diet, or is that just something that is easy to do and everybody enjoys,
just at
or
this point,
both?
just easy to do and everybody enjoys.
Yeah.
We were using a blender to prepare batches of soups when she was on ketogenic diet. So we were using the blender we had at the time heavily
Mhm.
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Are there any you were talking about you tried a sticky mat for her bowl or her plate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um are there certain utensils or things that you've found either adaptive or not that work well for your needs?
For my daughter in particular, one of the biggest things is a deeper bowl. We just look at the bowl shape. Um,
Hmm.
if if we were needed to get a new one,
Yeah.
it tends to work a lot better for her. If it's like almost maybe even the big ones, you might get like a bowl of ramen in at a nice restaurant or something. Like,
Yeah.
is she that works well?
Mm.
And lids, cups with lids and straws. There is one that's one of the canning jars. I think it's Ball
Mhm.
makes cup shaped. They either have an indentation that makes it comfortable to hold or a handle, and
Oh,
then you
okay.
put the lid on that and with a straw, and it's fabulous. We can get a whole bunch of them, and their lids and straws are always interchangeable between them, so we always have it ready.
Yeah.
There's that thing that happens when you have a million different to-go cups and you can't
Yep.
find the right lid that goes with it. So again, it's keeping things simple as you possibly can. Like
Right.
that's a suggestion I would have in general, wherever there's things that you could just kind of own duplicates
Yes.
instead of having to mix and match like that. Like I buy all the
Right.
same socks for myself. Like so there's no worry about which pair goes with which one go how to pair them up.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you find a pair of pants you like, you just get that in however many colors are available and you're
Go
set.
for it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's very helpful to know. I'm thinking about the bowl you're talking about, and I'm assuming what's helpful about it are the deep sides,
Yeah.
for maybe leveraging a spoon or a fork against the side to get
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
food onto it to, okay.
And just making it less likely to splash or spill stuff out because
Yes.
it's down in the bottom a little more.
Right.
And deeper plates too work better for my daughter if they have a
Yeah.
bit of a lip on them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that it's so funny. It makes sense and it's logical, but until you have to think about it, you don't.
Until you've had
Um,
the food spilled over and over and over
right.
again and you're cleaning it up all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
So
was
for
what you've
anybody,
measured out very
right.
carefully. Yeah.
And now there's not enough of it and you have to make more. And
Yeah.
yeah. Oh gosh. Um, so for anybody who is newly on this journey, either taking care of a child or an adult who has a progressive illness or has been through an accident and now suddenly life has changed. Um, is there anything they should know? And I'm speaking specifically about mealtime, but if something else pops into your head, please share. Um, about being able to kind of go with the flow for these activities of daily living. But I'm going to keep it to mealtime first because that
Mm.
seems to be one of the larger challenges. And please correct me if I'm wrong, if that's not one of the areas that causes the most,
For
at
us,
least
it was a big
amount of
area
thought.
for a long
Yeah.
time. It's less so now, but it was.
Yeah.
I think that just being realistic about your situation
Mhm.
and your feelings about it. And some of us are in situations where there really isn't truly a lot of help
Yeah.
besides us. So it's all about keeping things simple, accepting that things be simple, accepting that things be less than the most beautiful or preferred
Yes.
way. I'm not eating my gourmet meal. I'm eating simple, maybe crackers
Hmm.
and cheese or with some fruit, some and fruits and vegetables, maybe
Yeah.
or maybe those pre-made ones, but it's nutritious and it's going to take care of me. And
Right.
that's the bottom line, is to really get down to those super basics and get comfortable with them.
Yeah.
And if you have more room in your life to do more preferred ways, things that are more time intensive, great, fabulous. I'm very that's that's awesome. But a lot of us just really simply don't. And people will
Yeah.
say, "We'll ask for help. We'll ask for help." And I actually just published a podcast about getting yourself ready to hire help. So
Oh,
yes, those things are
nice.
possible, and yes, you can keep asking, and you can find more and more pieces
Hmm.
of help that you'd like. Um, and at the same time, be realistic and be in the situation you're in, however
Right.
that is.
Yeah.
So if you're in that high acuity, really intense situation without a lot of support that I wish for you and you should have,
Hmm.
um, then really pare it down. You know, what are the things for my health and safety and my loved ones' health and safety that absolutely have to get done? Do
Yes.
that in the most simple way you can, the most low energy way you can.
Right. I was talking with someone, and I'm sorry, whoever it was, and I don't remember. Um, and they had said that one of the things that helped them the most were they happen to be a Costco member, but wherever you shop in bulk, if you were a bulk shopper, um, the pre-made fresh meals. So
Yep.
Costco does things like trays of stuffed peppers or chicken pot pie or soup or whatever. Um, there is no shame in that game.
No, not at
I
all.
personally am
No.
not currently caregiving other than my two children, which is just parenting at this point
Mhm.
because they are not special needs. But I got into the habit of getting those things while I was helping to take care of my mom and all of that. And it's not a crutch. It is something that just simplifies things and makes a small piece of your life easier. And to your point, Lisa, anything you can find like that,
Yeah.
just do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is
Any
no perfection in caregiving. You just do what you have to do.
and especially regarding food, in the early days, if you, or a crisis moment,
Mm.
people often love to come around and bring food to you ready made and all of that kind of thing. So please take them up
Yeah.
on it. Please, have somebody set up the meal train website for you, and that can be super wonderful because A, you get that need met, but B, you have that moment of contact with your friend or your
Yes.
neighbor, and it can be really encouraging, mean a lot.
Right. Yeah. And, if number one, take them up on it. Number two, don't be ashamed to ask for it to continue if you're in a
Right.
long-term situation. So, if you have 8 people who are willing to do it, maybe you have one day a week that is, a caregiver
Good.
meal, and that's only a commitment on their part once every other month. So it's
Yeah.
really not a commitment. That is something that, is asking too much. If somebody wanted me to do that, I could do that
Yeah.
easily and happily in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So that's something simple that you can certainly, and if you have dietary restrictions or allergies or anything. You just need to make people aware of that.
Yeah. I would totally agree. And there's other areas of life where you may be able to either hire or ask for the gift of help for someone else to do. Maybe
Mhm.
there's somebody who would be willing to do your yard work. Maybe there's somebody who would be willing to go drive and run a couple errands if you need things at a particular store. Maybe there's somebody that would be willing to um, I don't know what else would come clean a little bit.
Mhm.
And actually, a lot of times, if you're asking for help, a lot of times people are more willing to do those kind of things than direct care because the
Yes.
direct care can feel really intimidating. Oh, I don't want to hurt this person. I don't know all of their medical issues. I don't
Mhm.
know their behavioral issues and what's going to happen to them or me. You know? Um,
Right.
so um, it can be a way to get support to have this kind of nesting doll um, concept. I really love. I keep coming back over and over and over again to the last scenes in Lord of the Rings, and Sam says, "I can't carry the ring, but I can carry you," and he picks up Frodo with the ring, right, to get
Yeah.
the ring over there.
Yes.
And I I feel like caregiving can be a lot like that. I feel like that's the kind of support a lot of ultimately care recipients need because
Yeah.
it kind of filters down when their caregivers freed up a bit, they we can do a better job
Yes.
and just have the whole unit thought of together.
Right. Yeah. And it
And
becomes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, that's about
It
I had,
becomes less transactional, right? And it frees
yeah,
you up to have more of that relationship with that person rather than being their project manager or their life manager.
yeah, it could. Um, and maybe somebody who's really good at at management and scheduling coordination and administrative types of things, and maybe they're willing to sit on hold with you and just ping you
Yeah.
when they actually get through to somebody, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
That could be another area too.
That's a
So you
really
bring up
good
the word
suggestion.
management. That's
That's because that's such a time suck. I mean, that's just like you're in that
yeah,
black hole of waiting.
yeah. And
Yeah.
again, keep that as simple as you can.
Yes.
Focus on the agencies or services that look very likely to provide the
Hmm.
most support to you and your loved one.
Hmm.
Get engaged with them and kind of triage where your attention actually goes beyond that.
Yeah. Did you find that, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway, that your doctor or your care team gave you an idea of where to go and what agencies to contact? Or did you have to figure that out by connecting with other parents and trial by error?
I didn't know until my daughter was 10 that there was any possibility for an in-home caregiver to come provided through the state. And I was asking at all the doctor's offices. I was asking at her. We did get into the early intervention where like the PT came once a week or
Mhm.
something to work with me and my daughter.
Yeah.
I was asking anyone and everyone I could think of, how do I get care for my daughter? I was looking at preschools to put her in, and they would not accept her. None of
Yeah.
them would accept her. And asking over and over again, who can care for my daughter besides me? So I have some hours,
Yeah.
apart from her. And it took until she was 10. And I finally found CIIS, which provides a few hours a month of respite.
Hmm.
And and then there really wasn't much beyond that until the ACA was implemented. And that greatly expanded Medicaid's home and community-based services. And
Hmm.
by that time, my daughter was about 13. And We had already experienced things I told you about, and
Yeah.
as far as our financial situation, and actually had moved out of state,
Mm,
where moving out of state meant that A, there was nothing where we moved to in Florida at all. And B, when we came back, we were treated as if we had never been here. We had
ugh,
to like reapply and took about a year to get restarted with anything. And then once
mhm,
we got that restarted, the ACA had been implemented and we were able to get a significant number of hours because she's now a teenager also. The way the state
mhm,
assigns those hours, they discount what they consider ordinary parenting expectations. So
mhm,
a young child typically doesn't get very many still now with the ACA. Um, Even a child that's like trach dependent and all kinds of other things going on would get far less than they're going to get as a
mhm,
teenager. I mean, somebody with that kind of situation possibly, but
mhm.
um, most children are going to get very few. It's those exceptional situations they might get pretty
Yeah.
good coverage, but most are going to get extremely few until they're about um, 10, 12, 15, the
Right.
ages that they might spend time away from their parents, kind of
Mhm,
unsupervised or just with friends.
mm,
So uh, my daughter was reaching that age, and also the ACA had been implemented. So now all of a sudden we had a whole bunch of hours. And these are all theoretical
yeah.
hours because the state leaves it on the family to basically find the caregivers to work those hours. There's a workforce shortage. There's a lot of families that have had really horrific experiences with trying to hire somebody that turned out unsafe. There's a lot of families where the
Yeah.
child has, for example, an immune deficiency condition where they
Mhm.
can't be safe with a rotating uh,
Right.
staff of different people coming in and out, or serious mental health issues where they really can't be safe with a lot of
Mhm.
different people coming and going.
Yeah.
So there's like these theoretical hours, and in our case, we've been able to use some of them, never all, and never to the
Mhm.
extent that my husband and I could both um, maintain conventional employment.
Right.
Um, it, we would one of us would be fired for lack of attendance. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. That is a whole other ball of wax. So just for our listeners who know, you are in Oregon now.
yeah,
You
which
lived
is
in Florida temporarily and you are back in Oregon.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And when I say nothing, I'm sure there's some things that exist in Oregon. I'm sure since the AC expansion, I mean in Florida,
Mhm.
um, since the AC expansion, there, I believe, would be. Some states are very, very hard though, and some states have these waiting lists that are like 13 years long to even get in home and community-based services.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
yeah, so Oregon's a
And
relatively
also,
good state.
yeah, the other point of clarification, when Lisa says ACA, she means the Affordable Care Act,
Yes. Hmm.
um, also
Yeah,
commonly called Obamacare. So just so
yeah,
everybody understands what we're talking about.
it is referred to that way. Yes. Yeah.
So we can get into this if you want to, but we don't have to. You mentioned how difficult it can be to be a working parent with all of these types of scheduling challenges and coverage and availability. Um, what are some of the things that an employer could do or should do
Mm.
that would make it easier?
So, yeah, I mean, it's truly impossible or next to impossible for some of us. They're just
Yeah.
really, unless you were going to abandon your family member, which we're not going to do. And
Hmm.
the state knows that, employers know that, or who would be potential employers. And
Hmm.
I was not able to make anything work and to be paid until both my daughter turned 18, and at the same
Hmm.
time, My husband's career developed in such a way that he actually had so many self-employed contractor clients that it was more than one person's going to do.
Hmm.
So we started a business together. We have kind of this modern technological version of a family homestead. Like it's, so that's the way it's worked for us finally.
Yeah.
Uh, as far as what employers could do, I mean, I think it would help tremendously to allow, it does help. And one of the reasons my business works for me and my employees is being all remote. So any kind of
Yeah.
work that is on the computer,
Hmm.
primarily, that is possible to do remote if employers can take advantage of that and allow that
Hmm.
access, which helps workers with disabilities themselves a lot as well.
Yes.
And that's um, a really important piece. Also, being willing to flex the schedule on any kind
Mhm.
of job that could allow for that. You know, there's some jobs, if the job is being a, um, a nurse, you know, you can't, you probably flex as much as if the job is uh, the accountant, you know.
Right. Yes.
But anywhere there is that possibility feasibly, the employer should definitely allow flex hours,
Hmm.
should definitely allow the maximum flexibility that they could. That would help a lot. And I think that
Hmm.
in recruiting and hiring employees, and promoting employees, it's super important for employers to better consider um, uh, transferable skills that are gained
Yes.
outside of paid employment. For me, I mean, I have a track record that shows incredible consistency and
Hmm.
showing up when I didn't feel like it and showing up all the time.
Yeah.
Incredible reliability that way. That shows incredible organization and
Mhm.
juggling of a lot of different tasks to track and different um, administrative pieces to take care of. That
Mhm.
shows some ability with math, that shows some ability with research, that research, there's not many people that will research more than a parent of a child with a disability learning about their child's condition. Like,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
they, yes, they will understand that condition in depth and
Yeah.
be able to explain it to somebody else and advocate and learning how to advocate and speak. So I think there's
Right.
a lot of things that we as caregivers really learn by necessity
Hmm.
that are applicable to a lot of jobs and mostly not seen that
Yeah.
um, or taken that way. There's this idea of an employment gap, quote unquote, when you take
Right.
a time of being an unpaid caregiver, and it's not a gap. It's
No.
a critical, very critical role that needs to be filled, that is accomplishing something the most valuable there is. Like, what's more valuable than taking care of
Yeah.
somebody vulnerable or somebody who needs care?
Yeah.
There's nothing more important, and it develops skills, and it
Right.
develops, a high level of skill.
I was just going to say, I would liken it to the equivalent of a chief operating officer.
It
You
really is.
are the leader of it's a massive team you have to put together. It's not just the care team, it's the other family members and friends and neighbors who are participating and coordinating all of that and doing all the research you mentioned. And this is an old statistic, but I haven't found updated research on it. I want to say it's from probably about 10, 15 years ago that the average caregiver invests at least 13 hours every month in research for their person.
Yep.
And I when I talk to caregivers, myself included, most of us think that that's a low number. There's a lot more that goes into it every month.
Particularly early days,
Yeah,
if it's a recent diagnosis or illness or injury, or you're just starting to learn about it, particularly.
right.
Uh, um, I could see that being true. I think, we learn about the condition, and then we learn all about the the formal supports that exist or lack of
Hmm.
formal supports. We learn about
Yeah.
um, things like an IEP in school. We learn about things like an ISP for home and community-based services at home. We learn about
Hmm.
this whole world of acronyms.
Speaking of which, can you dive into IEP and ISP for those who aren't familiar or are just learning?
Yeah. So, so an IEP, it has to do with education, and it is creating, it's called individualized education plan. It's creating a specialized education for that child.
Mhm.
So it will change the curriculum that child might study.
Mhm.
There will be planning and decisions made about their goals, which might be different than the general curriculum for most kids,
Mhm.
because it's going to be appropriate for them given their disability.
Yeah.
And ISP is uh, an individualized service plan that when you sign up for home and community-based services. And this is all potentially specific to Oregon because a lot of these things are named differently and function a bit different in different states.
Hmm.
Medicaid, home and community Medicaid is run by the states, even though it's partially federally funded.
Hmm.
So, but an ISP meeting happens once a year for somebody receiving in-home services, and it's when you write the plan that details, and it goes into a lot of detail about what exactly the person's support needs are and how those support needs will be met and what their goals are for their life in general. It could be anything
Okay.
in those goals. And so those are inside and outside of school. Within school, there is a difference between IEP and 504. And these are
Hmm.
created by two different separate laws
Hmm.
that were implemented in 1973 and 75, respectively. And the Rehabilitation Act in 1973, which gave us the 504, does a lot of
Yes.
things beyond education.
Hmm.
It has to do with access to employment. It has to do with access to public buildings and services and things like that as well. It have a lot of different areas of life. I'm not super familiar with all of them, but
Hmm.
one thing it does among many is to make sure that children can access the general curriculum in their school.
Yes.
So a child
Okay.
with a disability can have a 504 plan written in usually instead of an IEP. I don't think they ever would be done at the same time. A 504 plan would um, modify how the child accesses the general curriculum.
Okay.
Um, so it might include, I don't know, something like sitting near the front of the room so they can hear and see better. It might include
Hmm.
more breaks. It might include longer deadlines for assignments. That it might include, I think a note taker could be something that could be done
Yeah.
where they always get access to written notes
Hmm.
from a teacher's lecture, things like that.
Hmm.
But it's not going to change at the core the academic material that they're studying and the expectations of them to learn it.
Hmm.
Um, the IEP can totally change what the academic requirements even are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we're thinking about an IEP and what the requirements are, um, when you and I had spoken before, you mentioned the importance of creating like a one-page document that you can take to having an IEP meeting. Can you
Yeah,
talk a little bit about why you made that and what you include in it and what you would recommend?
right. So a one-page profile is a good idea for if you're accessing any kind of services with your
Mhm,
person. And what it does is basically lay out on one sheet that's real quick and easy to read key points about your person. It will have things like their favorite activities, their skills, their hobbies, their important people in their life, and then it will have the ways that they need and want to be supported. It will have things like requires more time to respond in communication, requires more that for my daughter requires support for mobility,
mhm,
requires support when out in community um, to stay safe interacting with strangers, requires
mhm,
sometimes communication facilitating communication for strangers to understand her better.
mhm,
So uh, there are some good templates and further explanation about what a one-page profile is. In my
mhm,
case, when I really used it to best effect, I was being coached by with some help from an organization in my state, and my interest was that I felt my daughter's placement in school was not really safe
mhm,
and appropriate for her. She was being bused far from our home. It was something like 15 or 20 miles away. And
yeah, that's not close.
not, yeah, and not in our neighborhood school where her sister was, and where
Mm,
we run into those kids in the grocery store and just walking around the neighborhood and stuff like that. There would be potentially further interaction. And
yeah,
so, and not only that, but she was in a self-contained classroom, which um, included children with a lot of high behavioral support
mhm,
needs. And my daughter's particularly vulnerable physically. Like
mhm,
she has mobility challenges. She also has speech challenges where she might not be super clear about communicating something that happened to me
mhm,
when she came home from school. And so she would have things happen like kid throwing another student throwing her speech device. There was a day when a student broke the window in her classroom, and the school responded by canceling school for a couple of days while they fixed that for that classroom in particular,
uh,
and not the rest of the school, which I didn't particularly have the energy to fight at that time, but I'm pretty sure was likely illegal
yeah,
for them to do. Um, and and I would suggest other parents to definitely pick your battles, or caregivers pick your battles. If it's not one that you have
yeah,
the time and the energy for, it's not. If it is one that you have the time and the energy for, great.
yeah,
And I I did gear myself up to go to an IEP meeting and ask for a change of placement was
mhm,
really my request.
yeah,
So part of that was writing one page profile, but really more importantly for that meeting, also a written letter of my concerns
mhm,
and desired outcomes. So with an IEP, you could, as the parent, you can always, and I would, and it's very strongly recommended, I would always recommend to write down a letter of some kind that outlines your perspective, your concerns, what you think is going well, and your requests.
mhm,
And so I brought in both a one-page profile and a letter, which really for that situation was really the more key point, the letter for that particular IEP, and did get my daughter placed in our own home district with more time in the general education classrooms
Hmm.
with peers who did not have disability. And there was an art class in particular that went super well for her. The
Oh,
teacher
cool.
was fantastic, not specifically trained in anything around disability, but was fantastic and
Yeah.
brought a lot out of her and created some projects that my daughter could successfully do
Hmm.
that were beautiful, that turned out really cool. So
That's amazing.
yeah. Um, yeah, and then she just started picking up a lot of language at that time too.
Hmm.
So I think she just finally was in an environment to hear more around her and
Yes.
be part of things.
Right. Yeah. Well, and sometimes just that opportunity to make a creative connection does something, in your brain. I fully believe I have no proof that I can cite right now, but um,
Yeah.
whether it's music or visual art or something, that ability to express yourself makes synapses connect in ways that maybe they hadn't before.
Yeah, it totally does. My older one played flute and was the drum major in her band, and
Oh,
that was
cool.
fantastic, fantastic. And the daughter with the disabilities gained so much by being in a musical theater production. It was
Yeah.
incredible. If you have an opportunity to do musical theater or support your loved one to do it, do it. Go for it.
Yeah,
It's so cool. Um,
absolutely. And I think people who are artistically inclined in one way or another, whether it's theater or music or visual arts or whatever, um, that group of people tends to be very open and accepting,
yeah,
and just intrinsically knows how to connect with other people.
yeah. And that gets me back to kind of like anytime you can find a solution for something that is not in the medical world,
Yeah.
it's wonderful. That can apply to physical therapy,
Hmm.
occupational therapy, speech therapy. Like some of the best things we did for my daughter um, that gained her the most along similar lines to what you're looking
Hmm.
for in those therapies was taking her to the playgrounds and assisting her to walk around. When we lived near a beach, having her bare feet on the warm sand, assisting her to walk around.
Hmm.
Um, when we found a music therapy group that she was able to go to a little bit. Uh, typical activities that most kids would do, go get your kid involved and
Hmm.
find their way to adaptively do it
Yeah.
um, with a mixed group or peers who do not have disabilities.
Yeah. And the younger you do it, the more natural it is for the other kids to
Yeah,
um, accept them and interact with them and meet them where they are.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Kids are so much better at it than grown-ups.
Often, very, very often. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how parents apologize for their kid coming up with like a curious comment or something, and the kid's just genuinely naive and curious, and that's great.
Yeah.
And the parent will, shush, just we don't talk about the wheelchair, and it's like, no,
It's a
please, like
great opportunity for them to
find out
learn.
about the wheelchair. Yeah. Yeah. And certainly it's a lot better to get questions than like be avoided.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I strongly encourage people to, excuse me, use it as a teachable moment or as an educational moment. So learning about it, but also like how can you be a good citizen
Yeah.
to your fellow human being who lives life in a different way from you?
And what can that person in a wheelchair offer you? Like they're a
Yes.
person with skills and talents and abilities. And
Yes.
at the very least might be uh charming and delightful and like you have a fun 5 minute conversation, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
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 Um, so you have a podcast
I
and it
do.
is called Love Doesn't Pay the Bills.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that podcast and the conversations you have?
Yeah, it is a combination of family caregivers about their personal experiences
Mhm.
and talking with people who have something to do with policy or um, I've had an episode or two about what employers can do, for example, to better support family caregivers. Um, the recent one is a gentleman that helps families to build their support team around them.
Oh, excellent.
So, yeah, a father, a medical father, and and I would love for y'all to listen and let me know any of your comments. I am reachable and I appreciate it.
Fantastic. And the podcast is available on all platforms, specific
Yep,
platforms. Where should people find it?
all the listening platforms.
Okay.
So it is audio only, but it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and any of those other apps that you're using to listen to audio podcasts.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story and your hard-won wisdom.
Thank you. This has been really fun.
Great. Well, thank you to our audience for spending your time with us. If you have questions or comments about what you've heard today, you can reach us at contact@carefulist.com. And as always, you can find additional resources on our website. Take care.